Welcome to the motherfucking we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know when Chantel Cameron, former undisputed champion Chantel Cameron, who recently migrated over from Matchroom to Queensbury.
When she's going to be fighting.
When she's going to be making her Queensbury Promotions debut. She's set to return to action on the undercard of the latest installment of Queensbury's Magnificent 7 in late July. On the 20th in Birmingham, opposite the ring, France's own Mekhaled.
Mekhaled!
Might be familiar with that name. That's the same Mekhaled that was in there with Alicia Baumgartner not that long ago.
Delphine Pissoon before that.
She's a tough broad, she can take a beating, and she can box a bit. In this situation, Chantel Cameron is the logical choice, the logical way to go. This fight is taking place at 140 pounds for an interim version of a title. At this time, I'm not sure if it's the WBO or the WBC, but the end result would be the same. Whoever wins will be in line to face either Katie Taylor or Amanda Serrano,
depending on who wins their rematch and who becomes undisputed champion.
The winner of Cameron versus Mekhaled will be in line to face the winner of Taylor versus Serrano. That's how it breaks down.
Yeah.
This is going to be Chantel Cameron's first fight under the Queensbury Promotions banner and her first fight with her new corner. People over there at Steel City Boxing in Sheffield. She's now trained by Grant Smith. Chantel Cameron, for as long as I've seen her, and I've seen her entire professional boxing career, she's always been an aggressive, mean-spirited, though still fundamentally sound fighter. When she was with Shane McGuigan, when she was with Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis. I expect that to be the case now that she's with Grant Smith. I don't expect that to change, but I do expect to see some changes because she went as far as making them.
What?
She didn't decide to leave Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis for no reason. She's paired up with Grant Smith because she wants something to change, make some kinds of alterations moving forward. So I expect to see something new, something different.
We'll see.
The constant with Chantel, irrespective of who's in her corner, is she's a mean-spirited but fundamentally sound fighter.
We'll see what Grant Smith can add to her toolbox.
Fights at 140, so Chantel doesn't appear to be moving up in weight. She doesn't appear to be moving up to welterweight, one of the hottest divisions right now, where Sandy Ryan holds a WBO title. Lauren Price,
she's got the WBA.
Ivana Habazin, she's got the WBC. Natasha Jonas, she's got the IBF.
I felt like Chantel Cameron was going to go up there. Apparently not.
She's staying at 140 pounds. She's staying right there where Katie Taylor still reigns as that division's undisputed champion, newly crowned. Going into her second fight with Amanda Serrano, Chantel has aspirations of facing the winner, though going over to Queensbury just to stay in the same division that she has been.
For that, you could have stayed at Matchroom.
Think about it. If you were going to stay at 140 pounds and you're still gunning for a Katie Taylor rematch, wouldn't you have been closer to it if you stayed at Matchroom than going over to Queensbury?
This is a keep busy fight.
I know that Mekhaled is a solid fighter, and I know that it's for an interim title, but in many ways, this is a stay busy fight.
You could have stayed busy at Matchroom.
If what you needed was a stay busy fight while Katie settles up with Amanda for a second time, Matchroom could have got you a stay busy fight. You went to Queensbury to fight Mekhaled?
Because you couldn't have did that at Matchroom.
Essentially what I'm getting at is, I don't know if going to Queensbury was necessarily the right move for Chantel, because doesn't that make a Taylor rematch, a potential Taylor rematch? Doesn't that make that fight harder to make? Have you not put distance between yourself and that fighter by going to a different promotional outfit?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. That if what you're doing is pursuing the winner of Taylor versus Serrano too, you could have stayed over there. You might have been closer to that fight than you are now. Where you are now, you seem to be a woman on an island.
Kinda.
We've seen Mekhaled in there with aggressive opponents, very aggressive opponents like Delphine Pissoon and Alicia Baumgartner. Chantel Cameron would be another, though Chantel is a bigger fighter, naturally bigger woman than those fighters are. I expect Chantel to lay it on her and lay it on thick.
Put on a show, because this is your Queensbury Promotions debut.
A stoppage would be nice, though in fairness, Mekhaled has never been stopped. At the same time, this is a higher weight. This is 140 pounds, not 130 where she fought Alicia or Delphine. We'll see what happens. It's not a bad fight. It's not a bad keep busy fight. I'm looking forward to it and seeing what it is Chantel has added to her repertoire Elsewhere in the world of boxing, a look at the undercard for the upcoming Tank Davis versus Frank Martin fight. We already knew that David Benavidez would be in the co-main event. We already knew that Carlos Adames would be defending his newly obtained WBC middleweight title against Terrell Gausha. In addition to the card, Gary Antoine Russell, the younger brother of Gary Russell, will be taking on former WBA champion Alberto Puello.
Not a bad fight.
For what is a WBC trinket title, an interim title that would line up the winner for the WBC champion, which still is Devin Haney. This is a battle of the unbeatens, the battle of the unbeaten fighters, the battle of the unbeaten southpaws, as both Gary Antoine Russell and Alberto Puello lead with the right hand in order to set up the left.
Wait a minute, if they're both unbeaten, then how did Alberto lose his WBA title?
He was stripped of it after he tested positive for a banned substance ahead of what was supposed to be the Rolly Romero fight.
You remember.
So while this isn't a bad fight, it is somewhat redundant. It is somewhat of a redundancy for these two fighters to fight here and now because Gary Antoine Russell already had the opportunity to fight Alberto Puello back when Alberto was still an unbeaten champion in possession of the full WBA title.
What?
Gary was supposed to fight Alberto months ago, but Gary walked away from the fight, which is why Rolly Romero got the title shot. It's because Gary walked away.
What?
Gary said, "When being a student of the game, you must consider the fact that every step a contestant takes is more than just self-gratification, and every one of us is doing it for keeps."
What?
In other words, Alberto Puello has to catch up to me.
This is when Alberto was still WBA champion, by the way.
He is behind me. There is no need to look back when the direction that you're going is forward. Is that what Gary's doing here and now?
It's more like Gary Antoine Russell is taking one step forward after having already taken 2 steps back.
Because for fighting this guy, after all these months, you could have fought him months ago, and he was full champion then. So if you would have beaten him, you would have been a full champion. Instead, you're fighting for a trinket title, a WBC interim title, and given the WBC's reputation for not always being Johnny on the spot with their mandates, who knows how long it would take them to order a fight between you and Devin Haney.
Look at how long they left Dillian White in limbo before he got his title shot. Look at how long they've left Carlos Adames in limbo.
Oh yeah, he's full champion now after several years, and Jermall Charlo has had several arrests, several run-ins with the law that made it very obvious this guy's not returning to the ring no time soon.
The WBC let him.
They let him go on for years without defending that WBC title, and this is the WBC that you are now so entrusting to order a fight between you and Devin, provided you beat Alberto.
Good luck.
Gary Antoine Russell, unbeaten, last saw action in August. I believe it was August of last year, and that's the only fight that he had last year. Time squandered, because for fighting unbeaten Kent Cruz for no belt at all, you could have fought Alberto.
You walked away from that fight just to end up having it anyway. Likely for less money than you would have made last year, because at least last year, Showtime was in the picture. Now they're not.
Now, the PBC side of things, they're running on fumes.
This is not a bad fight, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, Gary Antoine Russell is yet another mismanaged fighter.
There's no other way to look at it, because you could have did this already. You're doing it anyway, but now there's less in it for you.
That's dumb.
Upstairs in the welterweight division, as it pertains to yet another unbeaten up-and-comer and newly crowned WBO interim champion, Brian Norman Jr. called out both Mario Barrios and Conor Benn after he rained blows down upon Giovanni Santillán, then unbeaten. Whoever they have next for me, I'm ready for the challenge. Who would like to fight next? Terrence Crawford is about to vacate. This is pretty much the real deal championship belt at 23 years old. I would like to get Mario Barrios. He won some interim belt. I want Barrios. Matter of fact, forget Barrios. I want Conor Benn next. I just want to retire him real quick, and then I'll go back for Mario Barrios.
Not a slave to the moment.
What he did to Giovanni Santillán, was noteworthy. It was noteworthy because I remember when I saw Giovanni in there with Alexis Rocha, and I noticed that Giovanni had some size on Alexis. He made Alexis look small. Well, Brian Norman Jr. made Giovanni look small.
So that means he's got some size. This is a big welterweight. Young, too. He's only 23.
What I took away from the fight is that this is not the kind of fighter that you want to try to bully. This is not the kind of fighter that you want to stand in front of for too long. That makes him a near and apparent threat for fighters like Conor Benn, like Mario Barrios, like a Montestanionis.
Don't try to bully him and back him off. Box him.
Boxing is a lot like rock, paper, scissors. The right style beats the right style. And this is not the guy you want to get too aggressive with for too long because he's got size, power, and counters. That's how he beat Giovanni Santillán, from the inside out.
Where Giovanni Santillán's aggression overpowered Alexis Rocha, it worked against him with Brian. So the takeaway is, you don't want to sit in the pocket with Brian for too long because he's powerful.
Stylistically, that could be a very bad fight for these come-forward combination punchers like Mario Barrios and Conor Benn, a Montestanionis.
I haven't seen too much of Brian Norman before this weekend, but he has the look of a boxer-puncher. And if he is in fact a boxer-puncher, if that's his base style, that in essence means he's vulnerable to shake and bake fighters, pure boxers, outside guys like Michael McKinson and Karen Chukatsian, Suleiman Sissoko, unbeaten Suleiman Sissoko, great amateur background, moved down from 154 to 147, so he's got some size. And he's got some moves. I've seen him.
Great dimensions for a welterweight, and he's got some pop. He's got some power. He's not on Brian Norman's radar. Brian Norman seems to know who to target, know who to go after. And because he's WBO interim champion and because Terence Crawford is very close to vacating his WBO welterweight title,
He's not coming back to welterweight.
Brian Norman is set to become this division's newly crowned WBO champion. So at some point, someone is going to have to deal with him. Jaron Ennis, newly crowned IBF champion, has aspirations of unifying this division, becoming its undisputed champion. He's over there on the matchroom side of things. Brian is with Top Rank.
Brian didn't call out Boots, did he?
If he did, I didn't hear him. Though once Brian becomes WBO champion, that will put him in Jaron Ennis's crosshairs. If you want to become undisputed, you have to fight.
You have to fight each other.
And I haven't seen so much from Brian that I think he would beat Jaron Ennis.
Pump the brakes.
But they're not about to fight either, are they? I mean, we're not on the eve of a Brian Norman versus Boots fight, so it could be a while before that happens, and in between there, Brian Norman, he's young, he can get better. This could be a very big fight.
A good fight.
Boots has already got his belt. He's already a full-fledged champion at this weight. Brian Norman is up next.
See what else this kid can do.
So far, so good. The beating that he put on Giovanni Santillán, that was something to write home about. And finally, in men's heavyweight news, former two-division champion Frampton says Fury threw the victory away. He can beat Usyk in a rematch.
No, he can't.
He won't. I don't want to do a disservice to Usyk. He won it. At the halfway point, they came to me in the punditry spot, and I had to fight 4 rounds to 2 to Fury. Usyk was hurt to the body. He walked into a few uppercuts. I made the point that it was going to be hard for Usyk to come back, and I couldn't see a way, really. But he dug deep and done exactly that, and I scored the fight to Usyk by a round. 6 rounds each, and the knockdown was the difference for me. If he does win it, I still think you have to have him as one of the top heavyweights ever. He'd certainly be in the top 10 anyway of great heavyweights.
Fuck out of here.
In no particular order, where does Fury fit in with Joe Louis, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Mike Tyson,
Vitaly Klitschko,
Larry Holmes, Jack Dempsey, these kinds of people? Where does he fit in with them?
Where?
If he beats him in a rematch, it's a massive fight. And there's another fight then if he beats him in a rematch, because both men aren't like Leo Santa Cruz. They like to settle the score, not just having 1 and 1 each.
I never saw so many people playing Goliath, the violin, because that's what this was. This was a David and Goliath kind of situation.
Frampton continued, I also think it was good for Fury to be light. The output was high. That suited him.
Usyk's output was high.
Fury went out there and did what he normally does. You know, a bit of showboating, like he did in the first Wilder fight, like he did in the Tom Schwartz fight, and the Vladimir Klitschko fight. It's just that this time, it didn't work.
This is a better fighter than those guys are.
That's all it is. You were in there with a better fighter than a Deontay Wilder, a better fighter even than a Vladimir Klitschko. I'll go as far as saying that.
You think Usyk is better than Klitschko?
I do. And the way that so many are searching for a moral victory here, a moral victory for what is the bigger, longer, stronger,
Heavier.
and younger fighter. I mean, you really would have thought Tyson Fury was the underdog going into this thing. The betting lines right before the fight had Tyson Fury as the favorite going in, the slight favorite, but the favorite still. He had every conceivable advantage, unless we forget he was the Queensberry Promotions fighter. He was the house fighter. Usyk was at every disadvantage. Older, smaller.
Not big on power. Not known for
Let's
it.
get it straight. Nobody needs to be playing Tyson Fury the violin for losing that fight, because they weren't playing Anthony Joshua the violin when he lost that fight. Those 2 fights to Alexander Usyk. So what are you going easy on this guy for?
All you can talk about is a couple of decent body shots that he landed in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7.
It clearly wasn't enough to slow Alexander Usyk down, as he stayed on him, stayed with him, and treated him like a ping pong ball in the 9th round. No, he busts his nose all up in the 8th, then treats him like a ping pong ball in the 9th.
And all you can talk about is how every so often Tyson got in with a decent body shot.
Where before the fight, all you could talk about is how Usyk's got a glass body. He can't take it to the body. Fury went to his body, and he didn't go down. He didn't slow down. He stayed on Tyson Fury.
Oh my God. The boxer landed a punch in a boxing match?
So you guys sound talking about Tyson Fury's short-lived success in this fight.
6 rounds to 6. Are you kidding me?
You were looking for rounds to give Tyson Fury. We all know that's what you were doing if that's how you had it scored. The most I could give Fury were 4 rounds. 5 if you're generous.
I'm not.
But I know that you guys are, because you're looking for a moral victory for what quite clearly was the bigger, longer, stronger, and younger fighter who outweighed his opponent by 43 pounds. And you want to play him the violin.
Because he didn't have enough advantages. Oh, you're not tall enough? You're not long enough? You need to weigh more?
It's nauseating, because in the last 5 years, some members of the boxing community have likened Tyson Fury to this Babe Ruth-esque kind of character. This irreverent, charismatic guy.
He's slamming down beers at night and hitting home runs in the morning.
You want him to be those things, but this ain't baseball, and he ain't Babe Ruth.
He didn't give the fight away. The fight was taken from him.
You say that you don't want to do a disservice to Alexander Usyk, but if you're suggesting that the only reason Usyk won is because Fury gave it away, well, that's exactly what you're doing. The effort from Usyk from round 1 to round 12 was a hell of a lot more consistent than Fury's spurts, his bursts of activity, which he couldn't maintain.
You get off a good body shot, but you don't build on it because you ain't got cardio like this guy. You tried to come forward in the 9th, putting punches together. That got you counted, and it almost got you knocked out.
You should have been knocked out. You should have been waved off.
Playing a violin for this big doofus.
No, I don't like Tyson Fury. And I don't make any bones about that. I don't hide it. Because the only reason he's been allowed to go unbeaten for this long is because he got a gift against John McDermott years ago, and there was a lot of selective matchmaking years later.
You take the 1 or 2 decent wins that he's got and blow them out of proportion to where in your mind he should be in a top 10 list of all-time greats. For beating who? Wilder?
Give me a break.
Klitschko?
Lamont Brewster beat Vladimir Klitschko. Corey Saunders beat the brakes off of Vladimir Klitschko. Worse than Fury did.
So pump the fucking brakes.